Today on Locked On Rockies, no matter how good of a start you're having, all it takes in the game of baseball is one bad pitch to throw it all off balance.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 13th day of May in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And we are also on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where lots of you folks are letting me know what's on your mind here with the big news recently with the Colorado Rockies, what you think is next, what you think the move should be. Let me know. Keep letting me know in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section your thoughts, your ideas, your plans for the Colorado Rockies, as we got interim manager Warren Schaefer unfortunately losing a close ball game in his first game as the manager of the Colorado Rockies. Chase Dollander spinning an absolute gem yesterday with just a couple of small mistakes, unfortunately, that lead to the Rangers taking the lead late. And unfortunately, the Rockies offense still missing when it comes to big clutch situations. We're going to be breaking that down. We'll be reading some of your comments, of course, from the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, and plenty more. So anyway, thank you again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find, like I said, your team every day. And we are going to take a look here at yesterday's ball game real quick. And of course, the big main storyline is Chase Dollander dominating for a good chunk of that game. Gets to the bottom of the sixth, and unfortunately couldn't do what he did in the first inning, which was escape the walk. And then the walk mixed with the home run, the first hit of the ball game for the Rangers. And it's the go-ahead 2-run shot. And so when you're asking me, like, or when you ask the question of what's a more frustrating loss, what's a more frustrating situation, games like yesterday are the ones that really are the ones that I get the most frustrated by. Are the games that disappoint me and let me down the most. And it's just because, man, it's the close ball games. The good teams win the close ball games, and obviously the Rockies are far from a good team. But it's just winning those games, winning the one-run games, winning the games where you take the early lead, winning the game where your starters is dominating through 6 innings. And again, Chase was the one that it wasn't an error, it wasn't anything on the defense or anything. It was the home run, but it was the Rockies offense that couldn't get anything going after they had a day scoring a lot of runs. Of course, the classic score at Coors, not on the road. So that's when I got my main takeaway from that is, but I'm so encouraged at the same time. Chase Dollander goes up against a weak defense and a weak offense, and is successful against them. Again, no hitting them until the 6th, and it's a home run, and it's the one bad pitch he threw, and it happened to go over the middle of the plate, and it was just hit just enough to go over the wall there in a spot where the ball wasn't leaving. And so it just is such a bummer that for me, when I guess what I enjoy watching and stuff that I think I really do think it should be paramount to the identity of the Rockies is watching bad offense just drives me nuts. And the Rockies out-hit Texas yesterday. The Rockies had situations in which they could score, but it's strikeouts like with a runner on. It's bad outs. It's unproductive at bats. It's things where it's just like, ugh, good grief. Like it's such a pain when you watch your team go 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. You know, and again, that's the big problem. Huge issue with the Rockies is their inability to not only score runs, but to have those clutch to hit that even the productive outs, the things like that. We had Michael Toglia come up earlier in the game and take a strikeout when he just absolutely could not. You need to be way more aggressive and way better there. And then you also have the double play that ends the game there in the 9th, and other situations in which they had scoring opportunities. the offense being so unproductive. That's what I think. That's what drains on me the most. It really is, because if I was to say the one thing I think the Rockies should always be strong at is offense, as we're trying to give our thoughts, and the Rockies are rebuilding and reforming and reshaping here with the new manager and all the changes that'll be coming throughout the year and offseason to the team. The Rockies can't continue as a bottom of the barrel offense. They need to be an above average offense, because that's how they're going to win more games. It's how you win the Coors Field games. And then if your offense is doing a little bit better, you're at least negating some of the struggles of the road. I mean, no one's really truly ever cracked the code of how to take the offense on the road for the Rockies, especially not the last few seasons. But for me, when I'm looking for big goals this season, big hopes, I'm really hoping we see the offense turn around. And I just don't know if we will. It sounds like the return of some guys, including Ezekiel Tovar, could be coming this week, depending on just the rest of the rehab and how they're looking and things like that. I believe the broadcast was saying, or at least the radio broadcast was saying yesterday, that they are going to play today and then get reevaluated after that, or maybe play after Wednesday. I couldn't remember exactly what the plan was there. So Tovar might come in and help, and we've seen some guys like Hunter Goodman. We've seen Ryan McMahon, start to swing it a little bit better of late. But the offense is just such a bummer, because it's the pitching staff has kept the Rockies in some ball games this year, and when the offense completely falls flat and loses these 1-run ball games, it just, that's so deflating, because I think the norm isn't that the Rockies pitchers are going to get shelled. The norm, though, is that over 5 innings, it might be a 3 to 4 run earned run or something like that. The Rockies pitchers will deal with traffic. They'll deal with runners. That's just kind of part of their MO. If they're not being efficient in getting their ground ball outs, if they're not striking people out, they're going to, just the way the Rockies pitchers are. And we've seen this year, they can get hit. And especially we know that they can also walk folks too. So when the pitching staff gives you a game like last night, when Chase Dollander no hits the Texas Rangers for 6 innings, and then it gets up and it's a go ahead homer for the first hit of the ball game, and the Rangers only get 2 more hits going forward in this game, and the Rockies are unable to generate the offense to back them up and generate the offense to back up the pitching staff, that's my biggest disappointment. I'm way more disappointed in a loss like yesterday than I am when they get blown out. A blowout's a blowout, but they were better than you. They had their right stuff. They out-hit you. That's it. That's how it goes. But when you can't move runners over, when you can't drive in any runners in scoring position, when you're a young guy who's bouncing back from a tough start, having his best start of the season, and you can't get anything going, is tough. Now, I think the important caveat is, and just the good reminder to just take away a little bit of the sting of that is, Rangers, especially by mail there, very good pitching at home specifically, and very good pitching in general. I mean, this is a guy that let me see if I can get his home ERA here. But anyway, the Rockies went up against a guy who's got a 3-1 record, 1.49 ERA. This is obviously after yesterday too, but he wouldn't have gotten the win after yesterday anyway, considering that the Rockies took the lead first. Which was again, what's just frustrating about the offense too, where it's like, even if it's just 1 run, even if it's just that being able to jump out ahead and then just do nothing with it for the rest of the game. We've seen that way too much this year with the Colorado Rockies. But Mail was very, very good and has been very good, especially at home. Up until I remember what the broadcast was saying. The Rockies scored the 3rd run off of Tyler at home in the season, just the 3rd run. So it mixed with Texas not being the most hitter friendly environment and stuff like that. So there's a couple of elements there. Good pitching staff, good pitcher, really successful at home, and the Rockies are able to chip away and get that. It's just you gotta build on that, and it just stinks with the way that game panned out. You see that runners left in scoring position. You see for the double plays that the Rockies hit into there with that. It's just something that you got to clean up. You gotta be able to do a job, and unfortunately, just couldn't back up your guy, especially when it was a really great start for Dollander. I mean, everything, you can be ecstatic with that. 6 innings pitched, 1 hit in just those 2 runs, of course, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, and again, it was the home run that he gave up, the difference maker. But man, we've now seen a couple. It bounced back after, of course, we've seen the bad starts, we've seen tough starts, but now we've seen 2 starts here with Chase having some really solid footing under him. And what I really like about Chase right now, especially what's so refreshing, like I as much as I was talking about, the offense and how much, so great to see strikeouts from the pitching staff. It's so great to see a starter go out there and get strikeouts when he needed big strikeouts, when he needed big moments. To get the out via the strikeout, he got them. He wasn't worried. He wasn't afraid. He knew that it was they know their stuff. They're going in there, so they know that the Rangers' offense is one of the weaker ones, and he was able to attack it. But again, fortunately in baseball, you throw 90 pitches, 80 pitches. If even just one of them is a little bit off, the pros will punish you, and that is the story of the game for the Rockies. But I want to come back from the break here and just highlight again, this isn't the first time we've talked about it, but just kind of to re-emphasize how important these close games are going to be and will be in the grand scheme of things when it comes to, are the Rockies going to finish with one of the worst records or the worst record in baseball history? And why these games, you can't continue to let them slip by. We'll talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Maybe you're thinking about backing the Nuggets tonight. They are playing tonight, right? I hope they got some rest, which would be great. But yes, they are playing tonight. So maybe you're backing the Nuggets, Christian Braun threes. Maybe you're thinking Nikola Jokic rebounds. You can see it all for yourself and get in on the live game bets as well at FanDuel and the easy-to-use app. You can get after your first $5 bet hits, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. When you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Rockies here, back with you for segment number 2. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day and for checking us out on all your favorite streaming services and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where lots of you folks have been chiming in. Let me know what's on your mind when lots of stuff happening going on this year. We'll dive into some of these here as well, including a couple of folks making sure that I'm staying up to date with my info, which is good. Keeping me. It's good to make sure we know. All right. Let's see. Wow, there's a comment from an old episode. Yeah, there we go. I just got distracted. Anyway, let's talk about one-run losses for the Colorado Rockies here. The Colorado Rockies, after losing yesterday's game, are unfortunately not good in the close games. That actually isn't the most fair way to say it, because the Rockies have won. Some of their few wins have actually been close 1-run games. There haven't been a ton of blowouts. But if you flip the script on last night's game, and let's go through here and make sure 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's 7 games. Yeah, 7 games. So if you flip the script in 7 games, which is the amount of games the Rockies have lost by 1 run this year, if my quick math and quick counting is correct, you flip those to the Rockies, and the Rockies go from 7-34 to 14 and what is that? 20? What was it? 27? 14-27. Now, still 14-27, right? You're still obviously a team that's not very good, but 14 wins puts you higher than the White Sox, puts you 1 below the Orioles, 3 below the Angels, and 1 below the Marlins, tied with the Pirates, and still puts you 8 games 8 games out in the National League West. That's because they're just that good. So yeah, grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Does it change a lot of stuff? No, but you're on par with the other bad teams in the league. You are not the extreme outlier of the year that you are. You are in the conversation with the Marlins. You're only 3 wins behind the Nationals at that point, at 17 wins. If you're looking for another team that not in the basement, to be targeting, you'd be 4 behind the Rays at 18 wins, and then the Twins. The Central starts and the American League West, again, teams or some divisions there playing some better ball, putting some time, some space in between these people, but you wouldn't be historically bad, and that's again, this isn't something you can just it's with the guys. There's only the guys on the roster, and we can only hope for so much. So to kind of just go back to my main point of why it's so frustrating when offenses stumble. It's just, man, when you're in the game and you just and this wasn't the case last night where it was like a bunch of strikeouts and getting dominated there. The Rockies struck out 7 times yesterday, and for them, that's it's a little bit better. The strikeouts came in terrible moments, in terrible situations, but if you can just be able to put the pressure on and come up clutch, come up big, that it's not how you just avoid being the historically bad team. It's how you avoid 8-game losing streaks. It's how you avoid the long stretches of losing that we've seen the Rockies, and how I've gone time and time again that the Rockies, one of the big problems is it's not just that they lose, it's they start and then they lose and they go on the long losing streaks, and then they're not able to put together the back-to-back wins. You will know the Rockies are a better team and a team that's competing when yesterday's game they get the job done. It's maybe it is a back and forth affair. It's still close. The Rockies aren't getting a lot done, but instead of striking out with runners in scoring position, they put the ball in play and they get it done. Instead of hitting it into a double play when the bullpen's a little shaky for the Rangers, like we were seeing at the end there with that 9th inning, instead of that, no, you're finding it enough to just flash it over into the outfield and get the job done and bring in the run. When those things start happening, the momentum will start building for the Rockies, and the Rockies can start building off of that momentum and start packing and putting back-to-back wins together. Right now, one of the small goals for the Rockies should be start winning back-to-back games. Doesn't have to just be because I did see a comment here. Let me go see if I can find this comment. It might have been on Twitter, actually, I think, where they nailed it, though. So yeah, it's on Twitter. I can't remember it right now. But basically, it is so draining to watch a win and then 8 straight losses, to watch a win and then 8 straight losses. And I know that's the example of this year, but go back Go back to last year. Go back to the year. Go back to all of these losing seasons that the Rockies have been having since the playoffs, and just look at how many losing streaks that this team goes on. And that's what gets to be the most painful. Like when it's painful to watch the Rockies, it's game 4 of a losing streak, and the offense continues to do nothing. It's a series in which, oh man, the pitching staff can't even get anything going, can't even hit the zone, and it's just walks cashed in with offense. So I guess it's just the main takeaway here of yesterday's game is that until you play games like Sunday, until you play games in which you can bounce back, you can react, you play the full game, the complete game, every side of it, you're going to keep losing these close games. And when you lose these close games, that's one thing we can look back at the end of this year and the end of this first month and a half and say that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is this team can't win the close ball game. They can't get the big hit. They can't get the big out when they need to. They can't get the strikeout. They can't get whatever type of situation you want to say. When the offense doesn't back up the starter, that's a huge problem for the Rockies, because that has to be at its core what the Rockies are very successful at: scoring runs and backing up their pitchers. Why the Rockies have been successful in the past is when their starters were good and were getting, handling ball games, mixed with the offense being able to back them up on the days they needed the Coors Field shootouts or their pitching staff wasn't great. And other teams do that all the time. That's what makes you a good team is when if you falter in one area, if someone missteps, the others will can pick you up in other ways. Unfortunately, the Rockies have just not done that with some of the quality starts that they've seen this year from their pitching staff, as the offense continues to be one of my biggest frustration points with the team. All right, we're going to get some more from you folks out here. We're going to read some comments from the reaction again of the firing of Bud Black and everything. Given my insight into this a little bit more on the MLB Squad show that's coming up today, because one of the first comments I'm seeing right here from Jim here is, we need guys like Bichette and Walker to fix this team. I don't want a former player, like a big name like the Bombers or anything like that. Give me the Pacheco who's been going for a while. I don't want the Rockies to just continue to live in the Rockies bubble here. Right now, in the interim sense, that's a whole different story. That's a completely different thing. This year with the weird stuff like, Clint Hurdle continue to get involved in all this stuff. If the plan just can't be, hey, let's fix the Rockies problem by throwing a Rockies legend at it, I'd much rather see baseball minds that are hungry for the challenge of the Colorado Rockies, hungry to prove themselves as the manager of this team and do stuff and do creative, cool stuff. I bring up the word creative all the time because that's what it will take to fix the Rockies. All right, more comments from you, the Locked On Rockies listeners, coming up next on today's episode. Welcome back into the Locked On Rockies podcast. This is our third. I'm drawing a total section. I just had one of the biggest brain farts in my segment. There's the word I was looking for. Wow, that's pretty funny. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where lots of you are letting me know what's on your mind. All these people talking about, Bud Black and the firing, and then there's my brother giving me a compliment. Well, thanks, CJ. Appreciate you in the kind words there. Even though the haircut and the beard trim was a bit ago, but I'm glad it still looks good. So, all right, let's read some more comments here. This one's from Kendall. Bud Black is a good pitching coach. He needs to go back to doing that. Some guys just can't make the leap. And Bud Black can help teams and be successful in teams. He just was not in the right position. Bud Black's time was over last year. The Rockies should have gone into this year knowing that it just wasn't that. But nope, they needed to rely on the familiar because they had to cut the payroll. They had to do this stuff and just hope that it was going to turn around. Again, hear a lot of hoping from the Rockies. That we do a lot of hoping. I'd certainly think he can be effective on a team with a lot of veterans, and in a role that isn't the manager, something in the background. I certainly think he can be successful in other ways, and I wouldn't be surprised if other teams call him up and start and bring him in. I'm with you there. Here's what Tanager says. I've been wondering for a while what the overall playing philosophy is on the field. In the past, we had the Blake Street Bombers, where no visiting team's lead was safe. I was in Kansas City 10 and 11 years ago when the Royals were in the World Series, and the philosophy was move the line. Small ball, get the game to the bullpen, and lock it down. I see no overarching unifying philosophy, and it just feels like the Rocks has a collection of players that are plugging holes in positions just because someone was available. If they're going to rely on the youth movement, then there has to be a coaching staff of the bigs that will continue the development of the players once they get to Coors Field and not stall their development. Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges the Rockies have faced is claiming they're this draft and development team, but not able to get the most and not able to get consistent greatness or consistent play from some of their prospects and some of their high level guys. I mean, this is also, I think that also goes into the type of players the Rockies have been going after and targeting in the drafts and trying to develop those players as well. I do believe Michael Toglia has the ability to be a success at Coors Field, and we have seen adjustments here since Clint Hurdle's taken over. But it's just like how long do we wait on some of these things? Because it is pretty amazing when you're looking at some of these things, like Michael Toglia getting the most starts in a row at first base, games started consistently in a row at first base. Brenton Doyle's now got like in the top. I think he's in the top 3 of starts in center field. We're starting to see these guys getting into year 3, year 1 and change or 2. Some of these guys are starting to get into a couple of years or past that rookie status. And just hasn't necessarily taken the steps that we'd like to see. Now, we're starting to see some good stuff from Goodman and Beck. It'd be really interesting to see maybe how Veen will handle a call-up under Warren Schaefer versus how his call-up was in the past, and how the Rockies will look with some of these guys. But when you're talking about a philosophy, you're absolutely right. They don't have one because they're not good. They're not good enough in any areas, especially this season, to have an identity like that. They aren't the big home run team. They're not super aggressive on the base paths. Their identity was supposed to be, we'll smother you with good defense, and that hasn't happened either. So I think you kind of nail it there with your thoughts of where is the philosophy? What is the identity of the Rockies? It's a question we've been asking for a bit, certainly. John says, as a long-term fan, I all but gave up hope, or all gave up on the Rockies after that 21-0 shellacking. I'm glad to see the organization finally decided to make a change, but this has to be step one. They need to tear it down to the studs and rebuild. No more excuses. It's not like they're going to fall out of last place. There's literally nothing to lose. We'll see if more change comes from this, but some people pointed out some other comments here. That, do you want to get rid of the GM before the draft? Do you want to go through another draft with an interim GM in an interim situation? And I also think that old Bill has got quite the repertoire, of course, with Dick Monfort. So I'm not sure here. Let's see here. Arlek says, small correction, the Rockies will draft high this year. They will have the 4th pick. Unfortunately, with the new CBA, since they picked in the top 6 in 2024 and 2025, they cannot pick higher than pick 10 in the 2026 draft. I think, yeah, and this is a rule that I'm next time I've got Patrick Lyons or someone on. I didn't even know about this. I've now seen this a couple of things popping up. This is a big deal. This is a big this changes things for the Rockies. Certainly, you can still get good players at that point in the draft, but still. And here's what Christopher says. Christopher's kept me honest a couple of times here. What I like about him listening to the show. I'm going to mostly defend Schmidt. He did get Bryant here, and no one could have known what would happen. Very true. He then, not to that money. I think the Rockies could have got him for less money, and there were concerns about Chris Bryant's health. But yes, overall, totally. He then has had to deal with the collapse of revenue, but still inks some of the young guys. He is drafted well with Hughes almost ready despite Tommy John, our savior already with more wins than any other starter, and Condon, the best pure hitter in the draft along with Self Halverson. He also drafted a number of arms about to hit. He traded for Vodnik, Peralta, and Blaylock. Granted, he of the 21-gun salute. He was handicapped by Monfort in 21 offseason by Dick Monfort not wanting to sign anyone before the lockout despite having a deal ready for Gray. Roll my eyes on that one. But Texas was smart. Monfort backed Black, which is why Diaz wasn't traded in 2023 when he still had value. He did trade for Jones and then flipped him. So he has added talent to the farm system. But Monfort now has him constrained in spending and has his backing of Black made it hard to get a focus on development. Now, that isn't an issue. It usually doesn't help to fire the GM before the draft and trade deadline. So let's see what the talent he has pulled under a developmental manager for the next 3 months. And if it's a cart of lemons, you fire him. But I actually think he's done a pretty good job of getting guys via draft and trade who have shown signs of being contributors. But like with Amador, you need a manager who can keep that developmental process going. For all of Bud's excellent qualities, he's never been great at bringing new guys along. And I think that and that's the big sticking point, I think, at the end where. So why did we go back? We know that it's all that stuff behind the scenes. It's all the buddy stuff. It's all the relationships behind the scenes of why didn't we even just, you didn't, I don't know what to do. I guess, to just do an interim manager for the whole year, because if you'd have to make that decision, but we've known that he's been a little iffy and not as strong in the area of developing the players. We know that handling the vets and the veteran presence, Bud Black was good with, but going into this season where we knew the young guys and the youth was the primary focus of the team. I just, that's why I think they started this season a couple of steps behind, just because it's not like Bud Black can't be effective. It's just, he just wasn't the right guy for the job anymore for the Rockies. Still so many comments, and we didn't even get close to all of them, folks. Thank you so much for keep them coming. I know there's a lot on your mind right now, Rockies fans, so keep them coming. We'll keep going through them here, and we'll keep breaking down Rockies baseball for you, because this is the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully on Locked On MLB, or if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.